Hello, everybody. Okay, I had some technical difficulties. We're a little behind today, but here we are. I am going to be doing this on my own today. Kimmy is not feeling well, but since we have not been on in the last 2 weeks, wanted to make sure that we hopped on and did something for you guys so that it wasn't a whole nother week before we got around to getting on for you guys. Basically what I'm going to do is just I threw in some questions for ChatGPT, or more so asked it to give me some questions to answer. So it's going to be some just general industry questions, some personal questions about just being an agent. And then at the end I have two actually client questions that I've had personally for me that I wanted to just kind of talk about briefly. So I hope everybody's Thursday is going well. It is absolutely freezing here in Kansas. We actually are probably warmer today than we have been the last 2 days. It's been negative like 20. The last couple of days, we've got a few inches of snow on the ground. School's been out for the last few days. And then this weekend, it's going to be like 65. So it's literally going to feel like summer, which I am completely 100% ready for that. But anyways, we'll go ahead and get started here. And basically, I'll just kind of read off the questions and give my opinion of my answer. The first one was, what inspired you to get into the insurance industry? And for me, this was just a complete 180 on a career change. I think we talked about this before on the podcast, but I was just in a full-time job, kind of your typical 9 to 5. I actually worked 7 to 5, 4 days a week, which was not terrible, except for the fact that I was driving 45 minutes to work and back. And with a little one, it was not making sense for us anymore. I worked at that job for like 8 years, wanted something different. My husband was already in the real estate world. And he has always kind of wanted to own businesses. And so it just kind of came up as a random question one day of like, hey, would you want to get your insurance license? So I essentially jumped into this with no background, no nothing. And here we are. May will be 2 years since I got my license. We're pushing through, and it's been a journey. It's been fun learning everything. It definitely has been a major learning experience for me. But if you had asked me 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, if I would be working in insurance, I would have laughed, because that is never something that was on my radar. Although I think my husband and I now say all the time, we wish we would have known about this 10 years ago, because it would have been an amazing opportunity to have jumped in before, but we're here now, and that's what matters. Second question, how has the insurance industry changed since you started? So like I said, it's only been about 2 years since we've gotten in, but holy moly, it has changed so much. And I'm sure if you were in it prior to that, you'd have the same answers, but we got in, mind you, thinking that the real estate clients, networking, whatever that we already had was going to be helpful. And it has. But we really wanted to focus on home insurance when we first started. And we had basically one insurance carrier that was even bothering to give us quotes in Kansas. And so that was a huge problem for us. And we really questioned, like, what are we going to do? Like, it was kind of scary of like, the whole reason we got into this was for this specific reason. And then here we are, unable to write everything. So we really had to change our mindset and change our focus on what we were doing. And we really, at that point, dug into the commercial space, which has kind of led us where we are today, where as the market is kind of opening back up in a way, we're getting to really do both. I loved that we learned so much in the commercial world, and I really love all of that. But that now we are seeing so many more home and auto like insurance, just carriers, everything opening back up. And so we have been able to quote so much more, bind so much more. We're beating carriers that in the beginning, like when we saw somebody, send in their stuff to us and they're like, oh, we're with, this company now, we were like, we're never going to beat that. We were not competitive at all. And now we're really seeing those numbers changing where we are beating them. We are actually getting quotes and multiple quotes and options back for our clients, which has just been amazing. So many changes since we started. And I just think that it's going to continue getting better and better and better. So next one, what are some common misconceptions people have about insurance? I think one that we probably all as insurance agents can have heard before is, insurance is a scam. And I think while some people may have some great things to back this up, I think their problem is how they think of insurance. And same with myself. I really caution clients now, like, to think about what you're making claims for and to really think about insurance as what it's really truly meant for, of catastrophe, right? So you're using your auto insurance when you've totaled your vehicle, or you have major damage to it from an accident or whatever it is. Same thing with your home. It's burnt to the ground. Kind of those catastrophe moments, and that's where paying for that insurance really pays off, versus just kind of your minor things that, yes, your insurance can help with, but just I really try to push clients away from making claims that they don't necessarily need to. So I hope that kind of answers that question. The next one is, what is the biggest mistake people make when buying insurance? There's probably several of these, but something that kind of came to mind when I read this question was people just looking at the price and not truly knowing what they're getting, not knowing what their coverage is, not asking lots of questions. I am a question girl. Like, I almost to a fault will ask questions because I want to know why I'm doing something or why this is the way that it is, right? So when you, like, say I quote somebody and I give them two separate policies to go over, or quotes to go over, I feel like a lot of people are set in looking at the number. They see, well, this one's cheaper, so I should go with this one, which, when in reality, maybe it's cheaper, maybe it's saving them $100 here, but the coverage on the one that maybe costs them $100 more for the month, or for the year, or whatever it is giving them so much more. You know what I mean? Like, more bang for your buck, right? And so it's really kind of narrowing down. And I will never forget, I was on a call with somebody not that long ago who we didn't end up getting his business, but he told me that he had talked to probably 10 agents that week about his commercial auto insurance. And I was the only one out of those 10 to have actually walked through the proposal with him, explained to him everything that was on there, what it meant, what he was paying for, what was necessary, what wasn't. What's up, Joe? And so it really hit me of like, this is what sets you apart, right? When you take the time to explain to somebody you not have known before, you're going to stick out to those people. Even if, like I said, I didn't end up writing his insurance. He ended up just staying with the company that he had already. But he was so thankful that I took the time to explain to him and not just said, hey, here you go, this is what it costs. Like, good luck. So I think that makes a major difference. Next question. Okay. So how does bundling policies benefit clients? So I think there are benefits and definitely pros and cons to this. Benefits obviously would be you typically get a discount if you bundle your home and auto. All the commercials about the bundling are great. But I think there's also something in saying, as an independent broker, we can piece together what works best for the client, right? It's also typically like less confusing. And I think that's a big selling point for people when they know that their home and auto is with the same insurance carrier. They only have one point of contact. But it's also the same if you're using a broker, that you still have that same point of contact. And then really the confusion just comes back on us as the agent instead of them as the client. And that's how I try to really push towards my clients, because sometimes they'll kind of be like, well, isn't it easier to have it all under one company? And again, yes and no. It really all just depends, I think, on the specific situation. So, how important is networking in the insurance industry? Oh my gosh, 1,000%. It is so important to have networking. I think it's partly why our business is where it is today, because we've networked and we've, made referral partners out of that networking. We've met so many people. I cannot tell people how important it was that we ended up with our, essentially like our aggregator, if you wish, or if you will, that they took such good care of us in the beginning, getting us through. They didn't just kind of feed us to the wolves of like, hey, here's how you set everything up and then be on your way. They have been with us every step of the way, through all of the craziness that we had getting started. And then that led to obviously meeting more, networking people. We've met so many people through Joe. And that's part of the reason why we're here today is, doing the podcast and everything. Like, just all the opportunities that have been given to us have all come through networking and knowing people out there, knowing who's in your industry, knowing who to call when you need help. Because if you can't do it, you want to at least have somebody in your arsenal to be able to do it for you, or, to refer your person out to them. So, what strategies have helped you grow your book of business? So again, everything I just said with networking, but also referral partners and social media. So referral partners definitely helps. Again, if you can't help somebody, you want to have somebody who can. We've already made several relationships with people, other insurance agents. If we can't do it, we want to not just, again, give our clients out to the wolves and say, here, figure it out. We want to hand them off to somebody that we know is going to take as good a care of them as we would have. So we've definitely made some partners there. We've made some partners in different, like financial advisors. We have some friends that do financial advising, and they have helped us. And they also do life insurance. Just kind of all across the board of having referrals is so helpful. And then social media has been huge for getting clients, referrals, all of those things, because honestly, I don't post a lot of insurance-based content, but the more and more that I post, even if it's like just about how our day is going or our kids or the weather, like whatever, it's making me relevant and keeping my name out there. People already kind of know what I do because I do blast that too. But then when they have an insurance question or the renewals coming up and their premium just shot up, or, whatever the case may be, they will reach out to us. And I have seen that happen so much recently. And I tell you what, so I quit my part-time job 2 weeks ago now, maybe 3. And the amount of time that I was spending doing my part-time work has now been filled by people constantly like messaging of, hey, would you want to take a look at our home and auto? And so that has just been so cool to have one thing that kind of went away. And then as that happened, business started to ramp up a little bit. So that was really cool to see. So definitely, yeah, social media and referral partners has been huge in building our business. What's the best business lesson that you've learned in your career? I could say a lot of this, so we're talking career in general or just career in insurance, but either way, honesty, I think, is huge. And I think this is something we've touched on before, but just being honest with your clients. And if you messed up, like, own up to that. And I have learned that the more that I own up to them and let them know, like, hey, I'm so sorry, like, this is my fault. Even if it wasn't, just taking the responsibility, they appreciate that so much more than if you try to push it off on somebody else, or make something up, lie to them, whatever it is. I think that honesty piece just goes so much further, and it makes you human, obviously. So how do you balance work and personal life in such a demanding industry? And laugh at this question. And I feel like we have talked about this over and over and over. My husband and I have this conversation, I feel like, practically every day. And it is something that we are just continuously working on and always probably going to be working on, because it's hard. We work from home. We hope to change that in the future and have an office to be working out of, but it's distracting sometimes. Being home and knowing that there's other things that could be getting done, that is definitely a distraction for me. If I know I've got laundry going, or I just started a sourdough starter, so I have to feed that. And it's just all these different things that kind of sidetrack you from your work. And I feel like one or two things either happens. I either end up down in our office for hours on hours and realize that I have not left this room, or I realize that I'm going back and forth and I'm really not getting anything done or being productive. A lot of times I will work upstairs just because I feel like I can work and do other things, and then we've had school or snow days, so kids are home, and just kind of all the things. And I think it's, even if you're working away from home, that work-life balance is definitely something to just, it's a constant flow of work. Like, you have to always be working at that. And I don't think we'll ever perfect it, but I think that we're working towards finding the flow of things. So, and then the last two questions that I have are questions that I've actually experienced with a couple of clients recently. So the first one was, what if my home insurance is tied up in my mortgage? And I loved this question because I feel like this is one of those things where you may be like professionally blind to this of, we know that it's easy to make that change. But as somebody who doesn't know anything about insurance, may think that that is a very difficult, time consuming, if even possible thing to do. And that's kind of what this person was doing. They were very hesitant to be quoting because they were worried that if they ended up getting something cheaper, better, that they liked, and all those things, that when it came time for the switch and all that, they wouldn't be able to do it. And so that was a very simple, answer on my end of, hey, it is so easy to make that change. And even us as an agent, we can do it for you. And so that was something that just kind of, I don't know, reminded me that I didn't know all these things 2 years ago. And a lot of people that I'm, see myself on Facebook, or potential clients, they don't know these things either. So, yeah. And then the last question is there really auto insurance discounts for not having any DUI? So there's a story behind this. I had somebody, a neighbor, actually send me a video, and it came from a local news station here in Wichita. And basically it was saying that if you did not have any DUIs, that you could get this like super cheap auto insurance and save on your auto and everything. Well, so she sent it to me asking if this was legit, right? And it had a link at the bottom of the news page, right? And so out of curiosity, I clicked on the link. And first things to think about here, you're already getting, technically, I wouldn't call it a discount, but if you do not have DUIs, you don't have accidents, you don't have any of those things, you're already getting, a better rate than you would if you do have a DUI or any of those other violations, right? And so I think it's a little bit clickbaity when they're like, oh, come over here if you haven't had a DUI because you're going to get a better rate. When really what you're doing is putting all your information out there for these companies who have paid to get your information, right? So I actually clicked on the link. It brought me to a website. I'd heard of the site before, but I was kind of just still curious. When you clicked on it, the very first thing that came up said full coverage auto insurance for $29 a month. And I just kind of had to chuckle at that because I feel like that'd be very rare. Not that it can't happen, but it would be very rare, right? And so kept on going through the process. I put in my information, and I tell you what, my phone immediately when I submitted that form was blowing up. I had phone calls, I had emails, text messages, everything from at least 5 big, well-known insurance carriers that were hitting me up, and they were local. I'm sure they were other, companies that had paid this agency to send all this stuff to me, but it really frustrated me in the way that it got there. Because it's false advertising, right? And so, and I had told the neighbor, I said, it's clickbait, like, don't do that. And still, this was probably 2 weeks ago, and I'm still getting text messages, calls, and stuff for all these people because they are relentless on getting my auto insurance. So, yeah, and just something else kind of to make clients aware of is, don't always believe everything that you see. And it's hard to lose clients to that when they end up going with another quote because it was cheaper, or they think that they got better coverage. And sometimes out of curiosity, I've asked them like, oh, what did you get? And they'll tell me, and I'm like, okay. But I feel like I can only do so much. I don't want to be that pushy person. And as long as I know that I did everything that I could, and know that I was giving them the best coverage, like, I am not going to lower their limits, their coverage just to make a sale. I want the people who know that they're being covered and safe and just kind of all of those things. So I'm going to knock my mic over. So anyways, that was all of my questions for today. So I think Kimmy and I would love to have a guest on our podcast soon. So far, it's just been her and I, and I think we would really love to start getting some other people, getting some different perspectives, having new conversations. So we'd really love if you can comment and let us know who you want to see, or if you're interested in being on. Also topics that we either haven't covered, or maybe we've mentioned something, but we didn't go into depth on it. We'd love to hear about what you guys want to hear more of. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your Thursday, and we will see you in 2 weeks.